This is Elizabeth Clare Brewington with Elton Brewington, and we are here with the Discover Brightside Video Podcast. And I am so excited to have Corry with just the brief emails we've been sharing. And we love people talking about fitness because one of our goals is to get everyone fit and eating right, exercising right, doing the right things because we help business founders, leaders. You can't be a leader if you're not well. So we want you to do more and empower more people. So Corry, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do.
So I think it's so funny and fascinating that you said about combining business and wellness because over the last 7, 8 years, that's what I've really been focusing on. So I've been in the fitness and nutrition industry for the last 25 years. It was something like straight out of high school. I knew I wanted to focus on fitness and nutrition. And so I did a bachelor's in exercise phys, a master's in sports medicine. I was a professional bodybuilder for quite a few years, and now I put on bodybuilding shows on the East Coast. And I was always fit. And then when I hit 40, I was like, what is going on? I found myself all of a sudden, I was gaining weight. I didn't understand what was going on. And I was like, I just don't understand this. And I found myself as being a fitness and nutrition expert, I was kind of hiding because I didn't want people to think I was a fraud because all of a sudden now I had gained weight in my 40s, even though I was into fitness and nutrition. And so I did what everybody does, and I went to the doctor and I was like, okay, something's wrong with me because I'm just gaining weight and I don't know why. And of course, the doctor ran all my labs and they're like, everything is normal. You're fine. You're probably, you're 40. You're just getting older. And so that was 8 years ago. But so my business partner, Dr. Stacia Kelly, and I, we said, I remember after that meeting, I left at 40, armed with my antidepressants in my hand because I said, I can't handle this anymore. I'm so depressed. I'm so anxious over this. And I went home and I called her on the phone and just cried. I was like, I don't understand. I'm like, I don't know that I can do this for a living anymore. People are going to think I'm a fraud. And so she said, I think it's our hormones. I really think it's our hormones. And so at that point, this was 8 years ago. Today, people are talking more about hormones, but 8 years ago, nobody was talking about hormones. And so we basically, she has a PhD in holistic health. I have a master's in sports medicine, but basically went and talked to every doctor, trainer, nutritionist, anybody that would listen to us talk about females and hormones and what happens. And we just discovered that there's the continuum of hormones. So a lot of people talk about just estrogen and progesterone, but all the hormones like insulin and cortisol and thyroid, it's all tied together. And so I like to think of them as this great chain. And when one of them goes crazy, it messes everything else up.
Yeah.
So I found myself 25 pounds overweight. She was actually 65 pounds overweight, diagnosed with Hashimoto's and celiac disease. And so we just started working through things and came up with a protocol that now we affectionately call our 21-day detox and our hormone solution. But it helped me lose the 25 pounds. It helped her lose the 65 pounds. And when I went back to my doctor a year later, and she said, your hormones are still like normal. Everything is like normal based on like the average American. And she said at the end of it, she goes, but can I have your card? Because I really think you're onto something. And I think I need to send more women your way.
Hmm.
And so since then, I've met more and more women and really specialize in helping women over 40. And it's great because all my years of bodybuilding and owning nutrition stores and, working for Gold's Gym International, all these people are calling me going, are you still working with women? Like, are you helping us in our 40s? And so it's really looking at how we do different things. But what I find is women in like the age range between 40 and 60, it's usually when they're leaders or CEOs or, have big careers. And I found these women saying, I don't want to stand in front of the boardroom or I don't want to be in pictures. I'm too nervous because people are going to look at me and say, I'm 50 and frumpy and fat. And that's what I kept hearing. And I said, we can't do this. Like women can't hide behind their health. Like they can't be holding back and not sharing their message because of something to do with their health. And so my mission really is focusing on helping women get healthy. So that's why when you said what you said, I want women healthy so that they don't shy away from things because I feel like when women are healthy, they can truly change the world.
Oh, wow. That sounds amazing. Uh, And it's so true, because you start screaming, you have mood swings. It's not just about the body, it's so many
Right.
things going on with the hormones. And you don't even realize it. And then you're like, okay, I really need to get going. And you're right, when you go for your physical, they don't check your hormones unless you ask them to.
Right.
And I was experiencing some strange things going on with me as well, and I found it frustrating to get information, to understand it. So this is amazing, and I love bodybuilders. We had somebody else on the show the other day, and it is so important that you start taking care of your health. So how do people reach you? What do you offer? And is there any special promotions going on right now?
So, well, a couple different things. So, I always tell people if you can spell my name right, you can find me. So, if you're older than 40 years old, you probably know the show Boy Meets World, and the kid's name that was in there was Corry Matthews. Because we had this running joke when I met my husband. I said, "Oh, look, if we get married, my name will be Corry Matthews." So, I always tell people it's Corry, but it's spelled like sorry. So, instead of the S, it's a C, Corry Matthews with two T's. So if you put in corrymatthews.com, I've got my website there, but I've got, I'm on Instagram under Corry Matthews. I'm on Facebook under Corry Matthews. But really what we do is, so we've got obviously our 21-day detox. I always tell people that's just if you want a 3-week reset, you just need somebody to come along. I tell people I don't sugarcoat it literally. Like I'm going to remove your sugar, I'm going to remove your alcohol, but it's 3 weeks to just really reset. But when we created the program about 8 years ago, we realized that people needed more support. And so we created a one-on-one program where basically you get to work with me to go through, why is it important to remove excess sugar? Why is it important that we look at overall grains in general? So why are we looking at, oats and rice and, gluten and corn? How are those affecting? Because what I find with women is when your hormones change, foods that you used to do no longer work for you. So women I'll talk to them and I'm like, I'm not eating carbs. I'm eating tons of protein. I don't eat after 6, all these things. And I'm like, well, do you know that that's what works for you? And they're like, I don't know. I saw it on the internet. So when people ask me, do I do intermittent fasting or keto or any of that? I said, I've been doing nutrition for 25 years. So it's really about learning about individuals' lives. And so I think the easiest thing is if you go to corrymatthews.com and there's a quiz that I do about your hormones, and it just gives some insight to figure out what the hormones are. And before anybody says this is just for women, men have hormones too. So that's the key. So men don't have estrogen and progesterone, but they have all those other hormones. So a
Yeah.
lot of times women will do stuff with their husbands and significant others and stuff. It also works for kids. You can help, because I find the mom tends to usually be the one that's driving everybody's nutrition and wellness and everything. And if all of a sudden she starts eating a little bit healthier, then it makes things a little bit easier.
So true, all these things are so great. So, do you offer supplements, or is it just fitness, or is it a whole system?
So it's just, I focus on the fitness and nutrition. Because I was in the fit supplement industry for so long selling supplements, I don't necessarily want to sell supplements, but I have lots of strategic partners. So when people reach out and they're like, I want a really good protein powder, I can say, here are 3 of them that I really, really like. You can see which one you want, determine which one you want. Because sometimes people don't want, like people always want me to sell their products. And I'm like, I want to first know that your product works. And then from there, I'll recommend it to people to come and get your products. So I don't make people do that. So when they sign up to work with me, it's really the fitness, the nutrition, the mindset component of it, because Stacia brings in that whole PhD in hypnosis and holistic
Yeah.
health. So it's putting all that together. But one thing that I would say that's just super simple and easy is we did publish a cookbook.
Yay!
So this
Yeah.
came out just last October. We've been writing recipes that are all hormone balancing for years, and people kept saying, will you please put it in a cookbook?
Yes.
So, and right now, so if people reach out and if they say they found me through Discover Brightside, I'll send them a code and they can download the digital cookbook for free. It's got over 150 recipes to balance your hormones. And I say, ladies, if you make these recipes, your husband, your significant other, your kids will never know if you don't tell them it's healthy.
That is so true. It's so funny because when you move to eating healthier food, you find that it's so much better. Like when I go to a restaurant, I feel like I can't eat their food anymore because it's just so salty. And, it's like when you get on that health and wellness kick and you start eating fresh fruits and vegetables, your whole taste bud changes and you change. So yeah, I would love to try some of those recipes. And then I will end this interview saying thank you so much. And we definitely would like to have you back. And so thank you for letting us interview you.